G'day, I'm Darren Yates, hardware writer for Australian PC User magazine, and this month as part of our Mobile Computing Super Guide, we're going to look at how to upgrade your notebook computer's memory. Now, in the last couple of years, we've seen notebook computer memory expand quite considerably to the point where it now matches desktop computers as far as capacity is concerned. However, if you've bought a notebook computer, say 2 years ago, the chances are that it would have come with only 64 megabytes of memory. And that really isn't enough to run today's operating systems. Even Windows ME struggles to run on 64 megs properly. So we're going to show you this month how to upgrade, what to look for, and some of the pitfalls to watch out for.
But before we start, you'll need to pick up a set of jeweler's screwdrivers like these shown here. You can pick these up basically from any $2 shop or from Dick Smith Electronics. This set has 4 flat blades and 2 Phillips heads, and they'll come in quite handy when working on notebook computers. Now, the computer we're going to be working on is this Compaq Armada M300. It's a typical computer of the year 2000 vintage and only came with 64 megabytes of memory, not enough to run XP or 2000 optimally. Now, the first step in upgrading the memory of any notebook computer is to locate where the memory slot is. Now, this is going to be different for each notebook, so you'll need to look up the manual that came with yours for your specific location. The common location is underneath the keyboard. However, at this point, I do want to stress that upgrading notebook computer memory, while being simple, is not something I would recommend for beginners to do. If you're in this situation, I'd recommend you take your notebook computer to a local, reputable supplier or repairer and get them to install it for you. Now, to get at the memory slot, we need to remove the keyboard. Now, the keyboard itself is held in place usually by 3 or 4 key slots. You can see them here on this M300. Now, this is the most delicate part of the job, and you need to be very careful when removing the keyboard, otherwise you may damage it and render the notebook useless. So here's how to do it. Now, using a small blade screwdriver, gently press back against the key slot and lever the keyboard up. Now, don't lever it up too far because we need to clear all of the key slots first. Now, this is the most delicate part of the process, removing the keyboard, so go slow. If you're not sure about doing this, give it a miss because you can damage the keyboard. Now, this is the delicate part. Grab the back of the keyboard and then gently slide it out. There'll be some key slots in the bottom, and just pull it up and rest it on the screen. Now, you'll see here the ribbon cable that connects the keyboard to the rest of the notebook. It's most important that you take good care of that ribbon cable. As I said before, you could damage it if you're too rough, and that'll render the notebook useless. And here is the memory slot itself. And here is the memory module. Its full name is a Small Outline Dual Inline Memory Module, or SODIMM for short. This one has 128 megabytes of capacity. However, you just can't go out, buy a SODIMM, bring it home, stick it in your computer and expect it to work. You must make sure that you get the right module for your notebook. Otherwise, you could end up with a module that just doesn't want to work properly. Now, the reason this happens is because most notebook vendors have slightly varying ways in how they implement memory modules, so you must get the right one for your notebook. Check with your notebook computer supplier before you go out and buy any memory. That way you'll ensure that you get the right module. And here's a guide to the size. We have a SODIMM module on the bottom and a typical RAM bus module on the top. By the way, that RAM bus module has 128 megabytes of memory as well. Now, holding the memory carefully by the edges, line it up with the key slot in the memory socket itself and press in until it grabs. You'll feel the socket grab the memory as you push it in, and then I'll just push it down until the side key locks slot in place, and that's it. Now, the next task is to put the keyboard back. Again, slowly maneuver it down so that you don't stress that ribbon cable. Line up the guides on the bottom side of the keyboard, slide it in place, and now it's just a case of pressing it down gently but firmly into place. Now, the ideal way to do this is to actually use flat blade screwdriver just to push down until the key locks again click into place and the keyboard's locked into position.
And there you have it. It's a fairly simple process, but remember to take good care of that keyboard ribbon cable. It can be easily damaged and render the notebook useless until you get it repaired, and it can be quite expensive. Notebook computer memory is just as important as the desktop variety. You need to have enough of it to ensure that Windows operates optimally. And with most notebooks only coming with 64 megabytes of memory until recently, that just isn't enough to get anywhere near optimum performance. So you can see here how a 128 megabyte upgrade, costing no more than $60, can make a significant difference to the performance of your notebook computer.